Welcome everybody to the Power Connection. I'm your host Bobby Omar, and welcome. Happy Monday. I'm here with Jennifer Ettinger. Thanks for joining us, Jennifer.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
All right. Well, listen, if you're just joining us, again, we broadcast. Normally, I was broadcasting on Mondays and Wednesdays at 1:30 p.m. But in the summer, because of my kids' hours, I'm now changing it. So now I'm broadcasting every 8:45 a.m. on Monday, Wednesdays, and/or Fridays. So thanks for joining us for our summer editions of the Power Connection broadcast. One of the things about this broadcast, we talk about all topics around leadership and personal branding and development, public speaking, entrepreneurship. But I also take on other new topics like the one today, which is all about body image. And I'm a huge advocate for better body image, and Jennifer as well. So even though both of us talk about community and social media and digital stuff and other awesome topics, we've decided to kind of go with this really important topic, and especially because it is summer and we're thinking about beach bodies, and we're also, because of COVID, we're thinking about online stuff, and we're thinking about how we, navigate our online images. And I recently did a post around body image and going to the beach, and how I was always nervous about taking my shirt off, things like that. And I shared a story on LinkedIn on Friday, and a lot of people resonate with it. And so I thought, let's continue the conversation and kind of dive deeper in it. And Jennifer has tons of expertise in it too, which is so perfect. It's like it was like planned. I didn't plan it. Right. So that's good. So if you are joining us again, join the conversation. Tell us where you're from: North America, South America, Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa. You can ask questions. Share stories about body image. Ask questions about body image or online presence and things like that. And if you like what you're hearing, you can tag people. You can like, clap, heart, light bulb, smiley face. You can tag people. You share on your own pages, and we'd love to have you kind of join the conversation. So let's start off, Jennifer, with you, and maybe why don't we get into your story a little bit and tell us kind of where you've been and where you've come from to where you are today, but then also maybe throw in a bit about how your association with body image comes into play as well.
Sure. So I was once bedridden, Bobby, from chronic illness, and I was bedridden for a year with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia. And during that time, I started to research, because what I was currently doing wasn't, quote unquote, working for me health-wise, mental, physical, my overall well-being. So I started to embrace holistic practices, which changed my life. And I started working out 2 minutes a day on a $50 manual stair stepper that my husband bought from out of the paper from a woman who had her third child and said, "Take it, I'll never use it again." Well, that stair stepper changed my life, because I could only do 2 minutes, and 2 minutes continued to be 10 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. And by the end of a year, between meditation, cleaner eating, working out gently, working out, it changed my life. And so much so that I became a certified personal trainer 16 years ago. And I work now in North America as a speaker, as a one-on-one trainer, helping people embrace their body beautiful.
Wow. And sorry, was there more? I cut you off. Sorry. Was there more?
That's okay. I was just going to say, that's been my mantra, is to help people find that peace within their bodies, because I personally understand what it's like when you're not at peace with your body.
Mm-hmm. And you also mentioned that you wrote a book. So tell me about the book.
Yeah, so it was 2013 now. It's time to do a makeover. But the premise of the book was, my undergrad is in visual styling, visual merchandising. I attended the Fashion Institute of Technology for all three of my degrees. And my undergrad is in visual merchandising, working with mannequins. And at that point, too, I was seeing in the fashion world, there was one body shape, Bobby. It's this one back then.
Right.
Goddess number 1, as I call her. Well, I'm a goddess number 3. I'm curvy. I have curves. And so what I did was I embraced it, understanding, the science behind all our different body shapes. And it was actually created by a man, with all respect, calling us apples and pears. And I felt that was very defeating to women.
Right.
So I created goddess shapes. And that stems from my master's degree, which is in museum studies and the history of goddesses. So I created a book that you understand which goddess shape you are and how to eat for that shape, how to dress for that shape, how to work out for that shape. And with everything that we do, it's strongly tied to holistic practice. So I've been studying that for 27 years. So everything's very mindful. So there's a lot of journaling, Bobby, and I don't know if you've done this, like identifying your shape, your body, male or female, and looking at it like a pencil sketch of like, what are you able to change realistically, right? And what are you not able to change realistically? And understanding and coming to peace and understanding the process of the power of what you can change, and then the peace of finding like, it is what it is. And so it is a quite process. So the end of the book, it's 3 months, and you get a little goddess certificate that you've found your inner goddess, and that you're at peace with your body, fingers crossed.
And I think that body image is something that I think everyone struggles with in some sort of fashion or way. But what I'm curious about is, do you recall the first time you ever kind of became aware of how you were like looking or feeling about your body?
Feeling different about my body, or how people were observing me? Which one?
Well, just maybe feeling self-conscious, because I have a story about that too. So I'm curious about that.
Sure.
When you first started thinking about it, because I think it starts at a very early age.
Well, we were talking about that too, that when I was younger, before we got on, people would criticize my body shape, because I do have the J-Lo that is now like in style, but I had it when it was not in style, Bobby. Right. And that was horrific, because I remember people pointing. I remember the laughs. I remember all of that. And I'm thinking, wow, like that's so hurtful and hateful. Like, you're judging my body? Right. So it wasn't until I did a lot of mental work around what I could change, what I had to honor, and learning to honor my body, and that I became at peace. And that there, are photos where I'm like, now it is what it is. Like, accept me who I am. And if you don't want to, that's okay, because I accept who I am.
And I think that's one of the hardest journeys for us to get to, but I think it's a very important journey. I was going to share that when I was a kid, I was doing swimming, and I came to change, and a bunch of boys in the locker room were poking fun at me. And what's interesting too, at the time, I was a really skinny kid. I was very, very skinny, and they were poking fun at me and making fun of the way I looked and things like that. And that was the first time I was like started to become. I think I was like 6 or 7 years old. And what I remember is after that incident, I stopped changing there, and I went to the bathroom, and I started changing in the toilet and the stall, and I just stopped wanting to change in front of people after that. And that was like 7 years of age. Right? Like it's a long time for it to start, and little things hit you along the way. But I remember that one as the first one, and what's interesting is that I remember it, even though that was like 40 years ago. But you still remember that kind of stuff because it drills deep. It does. I think a lot of people have similar incidents where something happened where it drilled into them, and all of a sudden they stuck. I guess it held on to that belief, or that limiting belief. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And I'll never forget. I was on my honeymoon, and I had a little short set on, and I'm not about size, but in this case, I worked really hard. This was after being sick. I was wearing a size 6. Mm-hmm. I have lordosis, which it's a sway back. And I'll never forget, we went to breakfast, and these two guys were like, look at her butt. Look at her butt. And not in a positive way. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? And I didn't tell my husband, and I was like so choked up. Here I am, like on the happiest, week of my life, feeling really proud and confident of like what I've accomplished, from being sick to just embracing who I am, to these literally pointing. And I had it also happen once, Bobby, at the CNE, just like, and I'm like, wow, like if I didn't do the work to secure and ground myself, I can see how that can really affect somebody's psyche, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And what had you done in previous years to get to work on yourself? Like, what do you do to work on, say, dealing with body image challenges?
Well, for me, what I've learned is journaling is a key for me.
Journaling.
I keep a gratitude journal and an angry journal. So if I need to process about something that's bothering me, I'll write that down. I'm also a
Right.
CPA, surprise, surprise. And I write down because it gives me a sense of accomplishment. I write down my food, what workout I've done, and not to a point where I'm measuring obsessively or anything like that. And everybody has their own style. But for me,
Right.
it's my blueprint, Bobby, of if I'm staying on track. So if I am slipping, I'm able to kind of go back and go, oh, emotionally, I wasn't doing well here. But here's the key, saying it's okay, you can start again. So as a personal trainer, that's where I see the challenges with people of pulling up the bootstraps and going, okay, deep breath. I'm just going to start again. Because in this life of ours, especially right now, we're either in a crisis, coming out of a crisis, or we know someone in a crisis. And those three factors affect our body image, affect our emotions, and affect how we feel. And I think it's also important for people to realize, especially right now in COVID, if we're under the mindset of, some of us are like, yeah, I'm going to get that beach body right now. I'm going to work out 2 hours. I'm going to go strong because I've got all this time. It's actually the worst thing you can be doing for yourself right now. And here's why. And this came from Dr. Rosen. Dr. Rosen is the partner to Dr. Oz. And I've had the privilege of working with Dr. Oz, who's just a doll baby. But what Dr. Rosen has shared is that if we're obsessing and we're working so hard in our bodies, it's suppressing our immune system during COVID. And that's the worst thing we should be doing right now. Right now, we should be calming the body, fueling the body to our best of ability, and just keeping ourselves in a balanced state as much as we can.
Right.
And I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, and I kind of want to drill into the journaling piece. Like I don't journal anymore. I mean, I did. I remember doing university days, and I find, to me, social media is my journal. So what I do is, for example, the post I did on Friday where I talked about the story of how my son was 3 years old and asked me, "Daddy, aren't you going to take off your shirt when we're going to the beach?" And I froze, and I hadn't taken off my shirt in 30 years, and I said, "You know what? Of course I am," because there was no way I was going to pass on my body image issues to him. So I took off my shirt and I was terrified for 15 seconds. I got in the water with him, but everything was fine. And I share that story because, I think it's something that we all kind of, we all have to have these moments of courage. I think it's a very, it's a really big challenge for a lot of us when it comes to that. So for me, I share the story. So for me, my online postings is part of my journaling per se. But is there any sort of information about, how journaling helps us process? And can you talk to that maybe?
Sure. So the key is, and I love, because we talked about this before coming on camera, that you are so, you've stepped, when I look at you, Bobby, you've stepped into your power of your truth, and you share that with your audience. And that's what I believe is your secret sauce and your outwardly success, is the fact that you have taken the ownership of being vulnerable. Now, when you text and when you type, that's beautiful because you're releasing it.
Right.
But the science shows that when you write it from pen to paper, it secretes different chemicals in the brain that actually help the process of calm. So it's a different process from pen to paper to computer. But you're doing it, you're releasing it. So, hey, that's half the battle, right? Is that you're putting it out there and letting it go. But again, the journal it's a way of just releasing without any judgment. And when I'm sharing with clients, I don't want you to cross the T's and dot the I's. I don't want proper sentences. I just want you to write your truth.
It's a free write.
Yes. So then if and when they're comfortable with sharing that with me, we can really dig deep into what's there. And that's the way shift and change can occur. Right? That's the only way we can change. We both know that. We can hit what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different expectations. So in this case, when there's that trust factor, there are key indicators that I'll see that are, even if I see them as a professional, it has to come from the other person. We can highlight those and talk about it, but just like you talked today, like, Jen, what do you want to talk about? You let me lead. It's the same thing with my clients. Unless it's an issue of danger or concern for their well-being, they need to lead their journey, and I'm a conduit to help and support.
Nice.
Right? So we pull out of the journal key factors that are maybe hidden, that don't, and sometimes it's not pretty, Bobby, at all. Like, body deep.
Well, you did mention having an angry journal and then the other journal. So what's the purpose of the angry journal?
Yes, I love that you're bringing that up. So the purpose is that we're splitting our emotions separately so that we keep the gratitude journal, the one we're really proud of, the accomplishments, as our healthy blueprint. But we have a right to our thoughts, feelings, and opinions, especially now during COVID and processing, where we're going to have days where we're down during this, and dang it, write about it. And if you want to swear till the sun comes down, if you want to say whatever you want to say, you've got to release it from your body. I'm a family show too, but
exactly.
You've got to release it, Bobby, from your body. Otherwise, internally, it can cause damage, mentally, physically. So we want to release it. But then here's what we do. After we read it and we process it, we keep the gratitude journal. We tear up the angry, because that's not going to define and own us. So we've released it, we've reviewed it, and maybe it doesn't mean that just because we're ripping it up, you might need to continue it the next day and still continue to process. Does that make sense? But we want to get rid of that energy. We don't want it to stay. We want the gratitude energy to stay.
That's awesome. So if you're just joining us, and we're talking to Jennifer Ettinger about body image for online as well as during the COVID situation. And I did a body image story last week, and so we're just talking about drilling down into it. And so if you have stories about body image or how you're doing body image, share comments below, share stories. We'd love to hear from you as well. Ask any questions. We want to get people in the audience engaged, because I think the story, share, actually, if everyone's out there, can you share a time where you struggled with body image or how you navigate that? Let us know, because I want to see what people actually can share around their own stories. I was going to share another thing that I was working on when I first started I started focusing more on my body image around 2013. It's the same time I did this thing. I wrote a post on Facebook, actually. It was called "What the F is Wrong with Me?" And I basically opened up to all my struggles with body image and binge eating and hiding stuff and the drugs I was on for diabetes and just feeling out of control. And that post went viral, and people reached out to me and became this huge catalyst for starting this new movement I call Fit My Life, which is my hashtag I use, where I'm trying to make everything fit my life. I'm trying to get fit in my life, but I'm also trying to make everything fit in my life, which is very challenging. And so it's been a good journey, but it's also been challenging because body image has also been part of it too. And one of the things I've been working on when I talked to my therapist was, she said a part of the body image thing came because I absolutely hated my body, I hated certain parts of it. There was a lot of hate, and so she told me, get out of the shower, and I know you don't want to do this, but I want you to look in the mirror, out of the shower, and find something you like. And I was like, what? Find something I like? And I started doing that, and it was actually quite interesting. I started to see things that I never noticed before. Oh, I like the way that, that line on my arm is, or, whatever it might be.
Yes.
But I would find stuff. And so it's kind of like, it reminds me of the angry journal versus the gratitude, because there's anger and anger about my body. Like, I hate this, makes me feel this way. There's gratitude. Oh, that's a nice line there. Nice shoulders. You see stuff that maybe you hadn't seen because you were so angry all the time.
Exactly. I love that. And what I share with my clients is similar, where there's an exercise where they need to stand in front of the mirror and say, I love Bobby. I love Bobby.
Okay.
You have to connect your eyes to the mirror. And that's very difficult to do. It sounds simplistic, but when we're feeling challenged, it's the eyes go down, or I'll hear, I can only do like 10 seconds, or they start to cry. And that's crying it's detoxing, it's processing. So it is a beautiful way of kind of getting through it. So I love that she's taken it 10 steps further with the shower issue. But yes, it definitely helps heal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think some people were saying, Jennifer saying always trying for balance. And Michelle said, love the idea of the anger journal in addition to the gratitude journal. You have to acknowledge and process feelings, but don't hold on to them. Yeah, I love the idea of burning or ripping away those angry feelings. And I recall now that you and I had a conversation where you told me that, because my posts were always so see, the way I post is, even if I rant about something, I'll turn that frown upside down. I'll turn into what's the learning, and now where's the message of hope? I always turn even like my negative stuff into a message of hope. And you were like, "What is just you?" I think it was you, right? You said just rant with no resolution. Remember that?
Yes, yes, I love it.
I remember that, and I said no, or I said I'll try, or I said I would try it, and then I tried. Honestly, I tried. I was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't just I just can't go like wah wah wah, and then I have like
Well, so we do, like, the glass is full for us, Bobby. That's how we are. That's how, for whatever reason in our lives, we're wired to be that way. However, as I shared in this time together, you have a right to your thoughts, feelings, and opinions. And so sometimes trying to process it into a positive just simply can't be at this point in time, that we simply have to honor the feelings. Because if we don't honor the feelings emotionally, to your point, what happens? We start to have coping skills through food, through alcohol, through other unhealthy behaviors. And so I've gone back to school to become certified as a behavioral change specialist, because I feel it goes so hand in hand with everything that I'm doing. And again, the importance is to release it somehow, to process it somehow. And if you're feeling like that's not enough on yourself, look for an app or look for a mentor, look for someone, because sometimes there's just a huge release in sharing.
I agree. I think the way I handle the full anger rant is really either I would just journal it personally and not really release it to people. Yes. Or I'll call one of my friends and just rant and say, listen, I need to rant. Is that okay? And I'll just do that. Like, my wife gets a lot of that kind of stuff. Yes. Without any sort of message of hope, like it's just the rant. And I think it's good. And that's how I process. But I think that's important.
It's very important. And I agree with you. There's a time and a place for social. So we can go deep, but in my opinion, in my world, I'll go deep and then I step off. So to your point, I'll go to my husband or my close friends and I'll in the grit. Right. Yeah. But you'll never see me talk about that online, because for me, that's not my place where I want to put that energy. Sure. I'm trying to put good out in the world. And so if I have an issue, let me deal with it privately if I can. Yeah. Like with Twitter, and you'll probably have this too. If there's an issue with a brand or an experience, I'll direct message, or I'll ask for them to follow me so I can direct message. Before I would go anything public. That's just my personal belief system. Like, let's try to resolve through a relationship first before we blast all over.
And let me segue into and actually going back on what we talked about. I did that post, and I'm thinking maybe I should just do a weekly post where I just share something really vulnerable, and like just a story, because even body image, I could probably do literally 100 stories. I gave you the one today about the locker room. I mean, there's just so many I could do. Yes. And what I find is sometimes that when I send those messages, I get a private message, that really inspired me. Thanks for sharing that. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I should do more of these. They seem to resonate with people. It's not normally especially because I normally don't think about doing that, especially on LinkedIn. That's not usually where I think about doing it. That's where I initially decide to post that thing. But if it helps people, then and I'm okay with it, then I think maybe I should start doing a weekly series where I just share a story like that. And we'll see.
I love that. I love that. And here's why. Let's tie this into social media now. So I am a holistic social strategist. I have always been swimming against the stream. For me, it's never been how many followers you have, or we've got to hit the certain number. Never in my career have I ever focused on that, knock on wood. And I think I've done okay, considering that that's never been the foundation of what I do. And I share this because, Bobby, right now, especially during COVID, I'm so grateful that I see the pendulum is swinging on social media. Now, I'm not going to get into big pieces of social media. I'm going to keep this very specific because we could really go off. But what I'm loving is what you just shared and what you're good at. We as human beings are craving humanity and craving human to human contact relationships. So from your point of body image also, and seeing all these perfect bodies that have been highlighted and filtered with their muscles, namaste, like knock yourself out. But what I see is the people who are real, sharing their real stories and truth, are making such an impact to other people. And to me, that's what social media is all about, making an impact, a true impact for people. The metrics and all of that, they all come, as far as I'm concerned, when I'm working with a client. Like, it all happens to go there, but that's never, ever the lead-in. And people look at me like, are you are you sure about that? I'm like, yes, it's the community, it's the relationship, it's the truth. I call it social synergy.
Okay.
That, like, the two of us right now, we're being synergetic. Like, you're offering and I'm receiving and I'm receiving and I'm giving, and it's a beautiful thing that hopefully people are resonating with. So we all have the power to do that if we feel we can step into that power on our social media, whether it's our body image, whether it's how we're feeling during COVID. And I guarantee you, which I really do, you're going to impact somebody's life by sharing your truth. So I'd say go for that series, Bobby.
Good idea. And speaking of COVID, let's kind of talk about that briefly. I mean, we've been dealing with it for the last several months. I mean, how have you been? How's it been for you personally? And how are things going?
Like anybody, I think highs and lows. The way my personality style is I needed to take control of things and create. And I think one of the key words we're going to hear about outside of COVID this year for entrepreneurs is obviously pivot. Like, oh my goodness, that's the word of 2020, pivoting.
Yeah.
Right? So I've spent a lot of time behind the scenes creating new programmings, working on new website and redeveloping and really questioning like where I'm in this world and how I can be of service. So I went back to school. I did the Yale class, which is the science of well-being. It's their #1 course that they offer, just to have another level of understanding for people. And I created a series called At Home with Jen, and it's on IGTV. And I went to some of my favorite people to learn from their expertise, but then also because of my love of psychology and behavioral change, I tied it back to white papers or academics. So it's very interesting that they're naturally sharing X and there's science behind it to support their passions. So Claudia Beauprile from MasterChef Canada talks about mindful eating. Jennifer Candy, who's John Candy's daughter, talks about tragedy, humor during tragedy. I shared with you an FBI agent, female Toronto police officer from the well-being unit, talks about coping skills. So this was my way, and the list goes on. This was my way of trying to give back to people and create, because that just keeps me grounded. But there have been days where my daughter laughs and I'll say, Mom's hit the brick wall.
Right.
I'm going to sit in bed and not talk to anyone and just binge watch.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality.
Yeah. I mean, I often have bad hours, and this weekend was full of several bad hours where it just manifested and just overwhelmed us. And like people are saying here, let's see here. Theon says, "I'm with you. Resolve personally behind closed doors leads to better karma." Maheen says, "Great session, Bobby." Michelle says, "It's been a roller coaster of emotions these past few months." Yeah, I think as I tell everybody, I say there's 3 key things I see. Number 1 is the uncertainty principle, which is hard for us because we don't know what's happening in 2 weeks, a month, the fall, or even next year, and that's hard for a lot of people to take. It's an entrepreneur thing that we often have, but it's harder for a lot of people to take. And then the second piece is the overwhelm of information on everything about how to be a better parent, a better entrepreneur, how to manage your health, how to everything. And then there's disinformation about all of those same things. And then on top of that, the overwhelm of tasks, right? So I have to homeschool the kids. I got to work on my summer plans. I got to work on my fitness. I got to work on the dishes. I got to work on my business. I got to work on all this other stuff. And so that overwhelm, I think, is a hard thing. And then those two things lead to what I think is mental wellness and how do we navigate the mental wellness, which is also related to the binge eating piece, right? Which is, so now we're in COVID, and what I can tell you is that, I had a really great health journey last year through keto, and during the COVID months, I've gained 25 pounds, and it's weighed on me mentally, and but one of the things that I've learned with body image is the body image piece was really important because if I can work my body image and feel comfortable in my own skin, it doesn't matter whether I'm 260, 240, or 220. I'm still going to feel good about myself. So what's interesting is that I am disappointed in having lost my momentum and gaining the weight during COVID, but my feelings about my body image are still better than they were 5 years ago. Good. And one big insight that we talk about beach bodies and things like that. I remember I did a post that I'm excited to get ready for my beach body this summer, and someone messaged me. She's one of my nutrition friends, and she's like, Bobby, you've had your beach body all your life. Aww. It's just wherever you are, whenever you are. I was like, oh man, that's deep.
That's beautiful. I love her or him.
That was Rena, my friend Rena Perret, and that was deep. I was like, yeah, your beach body is whenever you're ready. And then I saw another post that said, dad body. Here's how you get it. Here's how you get a dad body. Become a dad, and then take off your shirt and you got a dad body. That's it. That's all you need. It doesn't matter what you look like, right?
Yes.
So so I thought that was really interesting. So in terms of body image, like, how do you see body image being affected by like the COVID situation? Is there any sort of relatability there, or?
Oh, absolutely, for sure, because we're trying to cope with something where no one knows anything. We're not experts in any of this. We're just trying to figure it out as we go. So there are times where unhealthy habits come back in, and unhealthy to the detriment of your overall well-being, but there's obviously some sort of connection there that is a coping skill for you. So when I'm working with clients, we'll look at that trigger, that cue, and see how we can replace that. Here's a great exercise that people can do. Say they're challenged, and this is a surface exercise, guys. So, we need much deeper work, but you put on a piece of paper at the top, like what your challenge is. And then you have 12 circles of bubbles, just circles. So you write down that, I'm challenged with eating potato chips at 3:00. And then in the circles, you actually start to post what are different things you could be doing outside of eating those potato chips at 3:00. And so you're starting to reframe your brain to think a little bit differently. And at 3:00, you can actually put something in your phone to say, usually, let's just say when you're looking for potato chips, that's salt, that's your adrenal glands are shot. Right. That's stress. Okay. So perhaps you put a mantra or something in at 3:00 just to ask yourself before you eat them, do you really want them? And if you do, namaste. But if you're doing it just because of a coping skill, to try to walk yourself through the process of, okay, I'm doing this because I'm feeling stressed. What else could I possibly be doing right now? Mm-hmm. Make sense? And we put the chips not on the kitchen counter, they're in the cupboard, so it makes it more difficult to get to. So we start to kind of psych ourselves out with reframing our thinking. But every feeling, like I shared, you have a right to your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. We can't stifle them. We have to try to figure out how to understand them. And potato chips in moderation, people. We're not going to take away and really make it good or bad. We're trying to understand so that there's a healthier balance in your life of foods that are going to fuel and foods that are going to be enjoyable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
You talked about the overwhelm during COVID, and that all comes back down to grounding oneself. So as I shared with you, very personal, I lost a loved one on Friday. My cousin, who's 27, was diagnosed this week with a very rare cancer. It's been a doozy of a week.
Right.
Have I cried? Yes. Am I processing? Yes. But thank goodness for like my grounding exercises and my journaling and mindful just movement, happiness movement, trying to fuel myself during a difficult time to help my brain and help my cells process versus just, again, bringing foods in that just make me feel good at the time. Even though, Bobby, I would want my chocolate almonds and my movie theater popcorn first.
Right.
I got to stop and go, okay, how about if you do this instead? Because it's going to help calm your nervous system, and take your supplements and go just do some deep breathing or put on some essential oils and kind of just work yourself through what you need to get through. Now, it's not always going to work, but it works a lot and has changed my life. So hopefully those little tips of just seeing how we can replace certain coping skills with healthier choices, and it's all in baby steps. And it isn't a finger pointing of you are bad because you are doing this. No, there's never judgment. It's an awareness piece of your journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that that inner judge that we have of ourselves is a very difficult thing to navigate. Your mind, that inner voice that you have can be your greatest champion and supporter. It can also be your most challenging person to deal with, because they're always telling you whether you're right or whether you're wrong. And so navigating that, I think, is a very common thing that I think a lot of us deal with. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, one of my great mentors shared with me, because I suffer from anxiety. Yeah. I get really anxious before interviews like crazy, or public appearances. We talked about this once at your LinkedIn Live. Like, I take my rescue remedy. She's like, a lot of people, we learn how to use the anxiety as fuel and like process, because we want to do so well. So when we kind of shift that and go, okay, we've got this. Okay, we're going to get through this. Okay, the butterflies are a good thing because it's humility, and you just want to do well and you want to make an impact. So kind of reframing, because all of us, to your point, I hear that all the time in my head. Like, how's it going to go with Bobby today? Right? Like,
right.
You either listen to the angel or you listen to the other side, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, no, for sure. And I was just thinking about this too in terms of body image. There's a movie that came out many years ago called The Beautiful Mind, and it was with Russell Crowe, and basically he struggled with some delusions. And what was interesting is that by the end of his life, when he had controlled his delusions, the people that were deluding him one was a little girl, and one was his so-called best friend. And there was another guy, a war guy, and they were actually all there, just sitting there quietly, just there. But he quieted them down, but they weren't actually active anymore. They were still there, and I thought that was really fascinating, because it reminds me of the fact that as the demons or the things that we have, those voices, even when we get them under control and we have that success for many years, they're still there. They're just sitting quietly and waiting for that moment to pounce on your fear or your guilt or whatever it might be. I thought that was really a powerful image when I think about it.
It's such a great movie. Really was.
Yeah.
Great analogy.
Yeah, very cool. So,
I think it's important that we really understand that we have to do our best as humans, imperfectly perfect, to manage our stress. So a year and a half ago, my stress level was through the roof. And I gained like 20 pounds. And I'm like, I'm known for fitness and wellness, and I could not get it off, Bobby. I mean, I contacted all my friends. I went to all my doctors, and I'm like, they're like, you need to do this, this, and this, and none of it worked. And finally, I said to myself, okay, to the point of when I shared with you, hitting this head on the wall because you're doing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
I just had a deep breath, and I'm like, what I need to do is I need to manage my stress, and I have to take these expectations off of myself. So I reframed my career. I walked away from weights, and I only used my body weight as a resistance.
Right.
I lost 20 some pounds.
Wow.
And here it was struggling where it would not, because I kept thinking, I got to lift the weights and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And the reality was, okay, my journal was my glue. I walked and I used body weight resistance and just tried to fuel and calm my body, and my whole body composition changed.
Wow. Okay.
So sometimes it's not over or needs to be fancy or expensive. It can be as simple as walking and really listening to yourself, because your body's always speaking. It's just a matter of whether or not we're listening.
Right. Okay. Well, first off, I want to thank you for just spending time with us today. I think it's really great to get your insights and your passion, your energy for all the different things you talk about. We're talking to Jennifer Ettinger about body image, both online as well as during COVID. And she's sharing some really great strategies and tactics around how we can navigate that stuff. For all of you who haven't tried this, you put together your angry journal. I think that's a great insight. How can people reach out to you if they want to get in touch with you?
Sure, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Fit Your Style, Twitter at Fit Your Style, and Jennifer Ettinger at Fit Your Style on Facebook.
And tell them what you're doing this Wednesday.
Pardon me?
Tell them what you're doing this Wednesday. Remember you said you're doing this really cool talk. What's that thing you're doing this week?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
My head's somewhere else. So yes, thanks for that cue twice. My team's like,
no, don't worry.
So what we're doing, Bobby, is we want to unite community on a social platform. And what we've created is trivia nights for Pink Dreams, my team, of keeping people united and just kind of like blow off some steam. So Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard, you can DM me for the link. We're going to do our first community trivia night in the honor of all the years where I've covered the Oscars. We're doing Oscars trivia throughout the year. Yes, I can't wait. And there's some doozies in there. And it's just a fun way of us to come together and just kind of chit chat for an hour or so and just blow off some steam. And then each one will be a different theme. And we're opening it up where various people will be the hosts of their niche area, whether it's music, 80s, movies, and just have a place to come together and let go for a while. So thanks for reminding me what I'm doing Wednesday.
That sounds fun. And if it's Oscars, man, I might want to join, because I'm a big Oscar buff, so that's good.
Good.
And for those who are on joining the call, if you watch the replay or you want to reach out to Jennifer, please do so. You can certainly tag people join the conversation as well. Power Connection Chat, we do every Mondays and Wednesdays from now on. It's going to be at 8:45 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. And I do thank you for your energy and your passion. You've always been really great to talk to, and I think that's it's just a really awesome thing. Now, is there any kind of final words for the people on the call in terms of managing body image during COVID, as well as just managing online?
I would just say be aware, but don't compare.
Be aware, but don't compare.
Online. Just be aware of yourself, be aware, keep your journals, figure out what are your trigger points, and talk to someone. Like pick one little thing, one little area you wish to improve. Tiny stepping stones create the journey to change.
That's beautiful. I love it. All right. Well, listen, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. This coming Wednesday, I should look at my book, because I think I know we have somebody who's coming. It's going to be, I think it's Cameron Harold. Let me just check here. Yes, it looks like this Wednesday. Oh, no, this Wednesday. I'm in the wrong. Yeah, this Wednesday is. Oh, I don't have anybody. Okay, never mind. Take that back. Sorry. But I will announce who we're going to have in the next couple of days as well, what we're doing. But if you're doing Power Connection Chat, join us every Monday, Wednesdays at 8:45 Eastern Standard Time. Thanks so much. Jennifer, all the best. Take care, and let's stay in touch. I can't wait to finally see you, give you a big hug, and have a deeper conversation. That'll be amazing.
To you. Thank you. You're the best.
Take care, everyone. Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.